Hi, and welcome to this Warp Talk, Staying Positive About the Future, with me, Robert Folkesson. So my daytime job is working in tech, building cloud and AI solutions, but I'm also a volunteer in Warp Institute. And sometimes when you watch media or read newspapers or you're online on social media, you're overwhelmed by all this negativity and all this negative news that is constantly overflowing you. So sometimes it feels like you're basically standing in the front of a cliff. And especially now, and especially if the topic is the future and during this global pandemic. So how can you cope with this? Well, one thing would be to basically quit watching the news and sit down, read a book, and that would probably help. But of course, it's important to stay up to date and to keep informed about what's happening in the world, and especially now. So Warp Institute has a mission to bring forward and curate the most interesting, positive, and this is really important, fact-checked news from all over the globe that is happening right now to kind of weigh or balance all these negative news. So Warp Institute is a non-profit foundation. It was started in Sweden, but it is now a global movement with a community with over 40,000 people around the world, and the readers and subscribers in over 150 countries. So the Warp News consists of news that a large number of editors all around the world put together and pick out and fact check before publishing in the different news channels. So, for example, continuously on Facebook and Twitter. You can also sign up for a newsletter that is sent out weekly. It has over 15,000 subscribers. And you can also follow the weekly podcast. So if you go to warpinstitute.org, you can sign up for the email newsletter in English. Or if you go to warpinstitute.se, you can sign up for the Warp newsletter in Swedish. So staying positive. We're in the middle of this global pandemic, and of course, it has horrible consequences, especially if you're affected directly. And it's really hard to tell what the future will bring from all this. But even in the middle of this global pandemic, we know that there will be some positive things coming out of this. So, of course, the development of a new vaccine, or there are actually many vaccines being developed in record speed right now. So there are advancements in health tech that is happening at a record speed. But I also think, I'm convinced that there will be a stream of innovative new businesses started right now as the need for innovation grows around the world to handle this new situation. And not only in medtech and in healthcare, but this has also changed the whole global food supply chains. So in agriculture and food tech, things are happening really fast right now, and there are changes being put in place. And a lot of innovation there. And also, of course, in green tech and other areas. And an interesting thing is that if you look at companies like Uber and Slack and WhatsApp and Pinterest, all these companies were all started in the middle of the latest large global financial crisis, the large financial crisis some 12 years ago. All these innovative businesses and services were started in the middle of that crisis. And I'm convinced that we will see a lot interesting example of new businesses being started now as well. And If you want to know more about thoughts around what will happen, I urge you to check out Christian von Essen's lightning talk, a warp lightning talk, which is available on the YouTube channel, where he discusses this further. And what Christian did was, he interviewed a large number of prominent researchers, philosophers, entrepreneurs, thinkers in Sweden, and put together a book around this subject. So what will come after COVID-19 and how will it affect society? This book is only available in Swedish so far, but I urge you to check out his lightning talk on the subject. So with that, I would like to go back some 70 years maybe in time and compare what has happened during that time until now or recently, and all the amazing development that has taken place. For example, child mortality has dropped from 22.5% in the 50s to 3.9% 2017, which is an amazing development. Also, life expectancy has grown from just 46 years in the 50s to 2016, 72 years. So a massive increase in life expectancy. Now, of course, the pandemic will make this figure drop a bit. But if you look historically, if you look at the 1918 pandemic, what we could see then was that this was a temporary drop in the increase of life expectancy. And if we look even further, like say some 20 years forward in time, the medical advancements that is happening now will make this curve go up again. And the life expectancy, I'm totally convinced, will increase dramatically just 20 years from now. And this is happening because, for example, better ways to scan for and treat cancer, where there have been some amazing breakthroughs just the recent years. Here's another great example. So this is what the late, great Hans Rosling always loved to talk about. So the extreme poverty in the world, which has dropped from just from 1990, from a staggering 38% to last year, 7.7%. So this is of course extremely good for the world and a really good development that is happening. And actually, if you look at the numbers, it's 137,000 people who have left extreme poverty every day since the 90s. Maybe if you're old enough like me, you might think of the 90s with kind of a nostalgic shimmer around it, but chances are then that you were born in a rich part of the world. So this is great development and advancement. Here's another thing. So the CO2 emissions are dropping. These are Swedish figures. And this is, of course, because of all the new green tech that is being developed, and the prices are going down for example, solar energy. And an interesting thing here is that the decrease is happening even if we've had a good economic growth. So economic growth doesn't have to mean that the emissions will increase. And actually, the opposite is quite true as well. A decline in the economy will not automatically mean reducement in emissions. We need to be able to invest in green technology going forward. And of course, we need to do much more here. So this isn't enough, but it's on the right way. And here's something that actually might surprise you a bit even. I was surprised by these figures. The world is actually getting greener. And NASA, they have been actually measuring this since 2000. They've had their satellite measuring this in something they call the trend in average leaf area percentage. So their satellite can actually measure how green the Earth is. And from 2000, it has actually gotten 5% greener, which is equivalent of one Amazon rainforest, which is quite amazing. And this is because of human effort that this is happening. So it's really great development being done there. So why is the world developing, and for in most cases in a good way? Why are we making progress? Well, because of ideas. And good ideas, they tend to win over bad ideas. Of course, there are some bad ideas as well. And sometimes the bad ideas will win, but in the long run, good ideas always win over bad ideas. And I would like to share a little story about a great idea that has the promise to make real impact in people's lives. So this is Melissa Mulholland and her son Connor. And when she was expecting Connor, they saw on her ultrasound that he had a very rare fetal abnormality called posterior urethral valves, or PUV. And the thing with this is that this is treatable. If you spot it in time, you can treat this pretty successfully. But not all doctors in all clinics are trained to actually see this in ultrasound images. So not every doctor or nurse get this training. So Melissa, she is a director in the partner organization in Microsoft. She thought, couldn't maybe an AI help spot this in ultrasound images? So she reached out to partners around the world and asked for help. Can we do this? And a company called Internology teamed up with her, and they made a working prototype. They trained an AI on thousands of these images and made it spot this abnormality in the ultrasound images. And the amazing thing is that it took them 1 day to do this. So with the technology available today globally to everyone, they had the cloud-based foundation for this AI already in place. They just needed to train it to spot this in images. So this is the kind of amazing technical advancements that really help push things forward. This is Melissa with her family. And Connor, he has had to go through a number of surgeries because of his condition. And also at the age of 3, he was diagnosed with autism. But he's also getting help from another AI to help him with this. He has a bit of a difficulty learning to speak. So he's using an app called Helpicto, where if he says something, the app will show an image based on what he says to help him train his speech. So this is another great example of how new technology like AI can help people in their daily lives. And the pace of this innovation is super fast, and it is advancing really, really fast. So this is very exciting. So sharing ideas is what it's much about, and kind of getting help from the wisdom of crowds. And that is also what we are doing in Warp Institute, having this community and having volunteers all around the globe helping each other to find these kind of news. And also not only crowdsource the news, but actually this presentation is crowdsourced. So we've been a lot of people working on this presentation in iterations, adding our own experiences to it. And it's also crowd performed. So if you would like to do this presentation, just reach out and let us know. And you could do that yourself. So these are the kind of news that you could expect if you check out the news channel or sign up for the Warp newsletter. And an amazing news that I just picked up in the channels is that Ebola is now no longer considered untreatable deadly disease. It's still a deadly disease, but there is now a cure, an actual cure for Ebola, which is amazing. Another example is this, the first one there is Africa, where they're building this giant green wall of trees to help stop the erosion from the desert. So they're building it like across Africa, which is amazing. So this is what you could expect to get a healthy dose of positivity to balance your daily intake of news. And you could also contribute or help us continuously, support us by becoming what is called a VIP, a VORP important person. So you could check that out at warpinstitute.org/VIP. And please take part of our news channels, engage on Facebook and Twitter, check out the other talks on YouTube, sign up if you want to for the newsletter, and together we can make the future come sooner. So with that, I would really like to thank you for listening and